Timelia felt warm next to the fire. The winding path down to this glade had been cool and a little bit damp. An inconsistent breeze was blowing through the leaves at the tops of the trees, creating a soft shushing noise. It was like the trees were reminding Timelia to stay quiet. That was a bit of a comfort at least. The trees seemed to be on the side of Timelia's people.
Hello and welcome. This is Wild Art Fly Free, where we are all about creativity. It is good to have you here, because we are building a fantasy world out of stories and we could really use your help. Don't worry, we aren't asking for too much. Just listen to what we have so far and make any suggestions that you think might help. In this video we are starting to build a new character. We want a dragon. We have some ideas about what a dragon might be and what sort of stories might come from our dragon. Do you have ideas about dragons? We always leave lots of opportunities for ideas and suggestions, so why don't you see what your imagination might offer? Thank you.
And now, Timelia and her small group of what she called her renegades could hide under the shelter of the trees, out of sight of anything slithering through the clouds overhead. Of course, His Royal Majesty wouldn't be flying over the forests himself. No, he had people for that. Not for flying, obviously, but for the searching. That seems to be how the dragons always keep their power. Normal people give them the power. Always there are people who will bow to a single dragon because they are a dragon and can fly. But, even a modest group of small people can defeat a dragon. Oh yes. Of course, when Timelia referred to people, she was thinking of the gnomes and dwarfs and halflings and maybe even the goblins. There were some people who called the dragon ruler a person, because he could talk and even think, but really, is that what made a person a person? No, it didn't matter about that anyway. What Timelia and her friends were really fighting against would have been the same if the ruler had been a human or even an elf. No. No person can say they are meant to rule over other people just because of, well, in this case, because they are a dragon.
And now we are thinking about dragons. We have dragons, well, in popular culture, they tend to be really big. They are kind of like serpents with wings and legs and arms, so they can do almost anything. They tend to be very big. I think maybe in our popular culture they might be overpowered. Maybe we don't want dragons that are quite that big. A metaphor for the most rich and powerful people. Right? So dragons tend to be rulers, and often not nice rulers. And sometimes they eat people, which is definitely goes along with the idea that they're a metaphor for the rich and powerful. Just, devouring whoever they like. So now we know about the story about Eastleigh being a tweedrel, and so she was taken as a young child and raised to be to be entertainment for the dragons. Dragons really like the cuteness of humanoid children, and really like to see them on stage performing little plays and stuff. So the question is what they did to Eastly okay? Right? Is it all right to take little kids and they were treated all right, but to change, raise them up to be entertainers when they could be anything? This could be a metaphor for, stage mothers. But in this case, the dragons are a metaphor for the rich and powerful. Is it okay what they did with Eastly? Is it an honor? She is now watched after, cared for, and protected. So that's good, isn't it? Is it a privilege? So there's some questions we've got, and there's probably some questions Eastly might have. And Tinkle, remember, got started on his current adventure with a relationship with Eastly. So he's been taken off by the dragon servants. I'm blanking on their name. But let's just call them dragon servants for now. These are humanoid people that work directly with dragons to, they get power out of the dragons and help to get the dragons what they want from other people, other humanoids. So how do dragons live? What sort of places do dragons live in? So we're thinking, do they live in family groups? Do they have towns for dragons? Well, the dragons are so big that we're thinking probably they would be dispersed out over large areas. And each dragon, or possibly dragon family, would be in charge of a certain area and have a certain number of humanoid peoples within their region to deal with, to care for, or whatever dragons might think they're doing with the humanoids that are under them. Again, with the metaphor, the dragons are the rich and powerful. So dragons, what kind of buildings would they have? Would they have buildings? Would they have to have caves? Would they build castles? Would they have humanoids build the castles for them? Would different dragons do different things? Are there different types of dragons in our world? We've got a lot of stuff to think about.
Dragons are a metaphor for the rich and powerful. They tend to be arrogant and think that they are in charge. Some groups of humans are like that, so it shouldn't seem too strange to think that flying serpents might treat other people as animals. So, let's say that each dragon, or each dragon family maybe, has land like a province or a nation. Then the dragons could base their individual wealth as a measure of how many humanoids that they have to work for them. Does that make sense? But, we have been thinking that. What if? What if our dragon isn't the type of person who wants to treat his humanoids as livestock and working animals? What if our dragon likes to think of his humanoids as pets? So, how might that work out? What if the government of a nation started taking a personal interest in individual people? Would the dragon start calling himself the people's daddy? After a hard day's work, how would it feel to have a bureaucrat come around to say to you, "Who's a good boy Den?" Oh, okay. Maybe not that bad. But then, how about if the dragon starts showing empathy to the less fortunate of his underlings? Would that make the winged serpent a favorite among his humanoids? Well, okay. We are just playing around with ideas right now, so don't get too upset about our dragon ideas. Also, don't fall in love with any of our ideas either. Not yet. We can already think of lots of problems with having the dragons in charge of everyone. Maybe dragon rule would be in a limited part of our world. Maybe there is a border between the dragon lands and the non-dragon lands. Then we could have ongoing conflicts. Conflicts can really help to build stories. So, we are brainstorming. Don't be too critical, or if you can see problems with someone's idea, just suggest some solutions. Brainstorming is playing and it should be fun. What do you think?
I'm here today to talk about dragons. And Turtle has come up with a story idea, and we're titling it Dragon S. We don't have a dragon's name yet. We hope you'll help us with that. For now, this is just Dragon S. And so dragons are a metaphor for human rulers, kings and queens, despots, emperors, right? People that are way above the normal people in power and belief in themselves. And so dragons probably are arrogant in general, but am I just being speciesist? Not all dragons would be arrogant. So that's the question. Well, one of the questions Turtle was thinking about. What if our dragon, well, was different? Let's say still arrogant, but has a different feeling about his people. His people being the humanoids that are under him. A different species, obviously, so we're not talking about what S thinks about the other dragons. We're thinking about what S thinks about the humanoids that are supposed to serve S according to what dragons believe. But dragons believe dragons are in charge. So what does S believe about the people he is in charge of? Well, other dragons mostly think of their humanoids as livestock. Perhaps not to eat necessarily, but to be working animals. Whereas, let's say S, he has a closer connection to his people, so he thinks he treats them more like pets. So instead of livestock, he knows them by name, they're pets, and of course we can become attached to our pets. And so how does that work out? All right. Now the question is, so this goes along for a while and maybe isn't working out that well. What could go wrong because of this? And we're thinking that maybe the people who are treated as pets get soft and start competing for S's sympathies, as a pet might, you know, suck up to its owner. Dogs more than cats. Don't get me started. Um, so, right, the pets under the dragon are now competing for the Dragon S, the Dragon S's attention. And one of the ways is, well, to be more sympathetic, right, to kiss up more, of course, but then to get more. S just seems to want to love her people and will give more based on sympathy. S lives in the area near Shattergrog, and it's a place we're thinking of as sort of a sticky rock, with a rock, some of it's really hard and keeps its shape, and other rock around it washes away. Where if you think about how a mountain erodes, it gets that lovely cone shape from eroding relatively evenly. Some rock holds together better, some rock, right, less so, or in some mountains are eroded more, so get more of a rounded appearance. But what if the rock has different hardnesses, and the hard areas have definite shapes? Now you've seen in the Badlands the hoodoos with really interesting shapes, and so what about an area where basically we're getting some really wild shapes with natural caves and all kinds of interesting structures like hoodoos on top of hoodoos? How far can we push that just for fun? So some, really interesting natural shapes as well as some humanoid created shapes, stairways, bridges, paths, all through this so that people can get around easier. And then, of course, for people that want to game, then we've got to map it out so that can our Dragon S live in a palace at the top of one of these things and make it a fair challenge that people can get to S if they're powerful enough and have enough weapons or magic abilities or whatever. So, while we want a story idea, a place for a story idea, we do want to entertain the gamers in our midst as well. So that's something we're playing around with. So that's the land around Shattergrog where the Dragon S lives. Just a reminder, the Vitglyph are our type of dragons that would keep Tweedrill, right, humanoid children, for entertainment. Those are the Tweedrill. The Vilglia, I think I've said Vitglia before. No, don't say that. Say Vilglia, are humanoid servants that care for the dragons. It is the Vilglia who are training Tinkle to be a spy. It is the Vilglia that watch over Eastleigh. Another thing that we should mention is that Turtle has been working on some 3D mesh models for our guys, and you'll probably, if you see these, when you see these, you will recognize we have a certain style for our 3D mesh models. We use Blender. That is a open source free mesh modeling program. We think it's awesome, and so now he has been working on a model for Tinkle, our gnome. So he's got his gnome hat, and we also have a model for Eastly, and she's all looking pretty in a dress, of course, being raised as entertainment and to be cute. So she wants to look nice for that, and she also has some bows in her hair and a little bit of color coordination. So if you have any ideas and suggestions for how these guys look, please, send them forward so that we can fix these guys up good before we take too many pictures of them and lock ourselves into a certain look.
Once upon a time there was a dragon. Well, we have been talking about dragons for our stories, but we haven't built one yet. Today I want to start building a dragon. This could be fun, and we really do need a dragon. So you are smart people. And clever, and good storytellers, right? Can you think of a good name for a dragon? We will wait for a while so that people can think about some names. For now, we will call our dragon, S. Okay. First we need to think about the times that we have had dragons in our stories. The most important bit is about when Eastly was taken as a child to be entertainment for dragons. We have also talked about dragons being a metaphor for the rich and powerful people who believe that they should rule over the other people. In Tolkien's book, The Hobbit, the dragon Smaug was very big and powerful. Well, our world is big enough for dragons like Smaug to live somewhere, but I think we want some dragons that are a little less overpowered. We can also try to have dragons that can fly without needing magic. Some quite large birds can fly and some big dinosaurs could fly. It shouldn't be too hard to imagine dragons that are able to fly without magic. So, a dragon is really a serpent. Some have arms and legs and wings, but they are really a type of snake. Sort of. Well, I think that we could have a dragon that is not so much bigger than a human. Well, with a long tail and a long neck, maybe 3 to 4 humans long. Also, not nearly so heavy, so they need to be skinny like a snake. Okay. Like a bird, they need a big chest area to attach the wings to, and the arms. Also, the arms and legs don't need to be very big or strong. The head can be the dragon's most used way to pick things up, and other stuff. A dragon is a person. What kind of people are dragons? Are dragons arrogant? Do they play with the lives of people as if they are no more than toys or tools? Are all dragons like that? Or are we just being speciesist? Well, maybe not speciesist. We did say that dragons are a metaphor for the rich and powerful, so are all the rich and powerful arrogant? Do all of the rich and powerful treat other people as toys or tools? Well, probably. But just for fun, I want to build a dragon character who is not like that. What would other dragons think about a dragon who cared for his humanoids? Would they take him seriously? Would they think he was some sort of flake? What do you think? Well, then. Since we are building a dragon character, we really need to start creating a story. Don't we? Owl did say that people are made out of stories and stories are made out of people. So, what sort of story should we have for our dragon currently known as S? Should we do another coming of age story? That's a good way to really get to know a character. Some dragons do live a long time, though. How much time would we need for a dragon to get through adolescence? What other types of stories are there? Owl has some ideas about types of stories. So does Bunny. Maybe we need to bounce the question off of them.
So as people, the wealthy people, the producers, let's say the economy, let's say, okay, what happens as the economy starts to suffer and the poor do worse rather than better due to getting more from the dragon, but there isn't that much to get as more and more people rely on it. And while we were talking about communities, one of them was Shattergrog, and it seemed like Shattergrog maybe was a poor place, and it's up in the mountains, up there, wilderness area. So we're thinking maybe that's where the dragon S, these are this dragon's peoples. So a related storyline, we are talking about a dragon who we are calling S, and this dragon has sympathy for his human underlings, humanoid underlings, and so S tends to help out those in need more, but in so doing asks for more and more from the people that are actually doing well, working hard, able to produce, and the economy starts to suffer. Some of the wealthier humanoid families find it harder to, provide and start leaving. And this is all in the Shattergrog area. Did I say Shattergrog? Yeah, Shattergrog. It's misspelled here. Okay, this is all in the Shattergrog area. And the community has never been particularly wealthy, but it's getting poorer. So as a result, there are some young people that are acting up and behaving badly. We get bandits. We get poor people growing up to stealing for a living. We have wealthier people who the young people are not satisfied with their future if everything they work for and produce is going to be taken away by the dragon who runs the place, just to give it to people that aren't really trying. So a lot of young people are acting up, and then Dragon S knows that he has this problem, and his military and other police authorities don't seem to be doing the job. Perhaps there's some corruption in there. Well, okay, yeah, there is corruption. There are suck-ups to Dragon S within those, and so it gets to the point where Dragon S actually asks for outside help, somebody to sort out the military, straighten things up through the military so that they can, get the bandits in order. And so we come up with somebody who is going to try to, put the military in order. There must be a military person from somewhere else, probably with some reputation. We will call them L for now, again, giving everybody a chance to suggest some names. We'll also suggest the race and backstory and everything else about L. So we're just talking about roughing out the story, very rough now, or even just the beginning of the story. L comes in, realizes that there is a political issue with Dragon S's ideas for social order, and can L sort things out, or is it going to go a different route? What kind of story are we talking about here? This could be a tragedy. This could be a story of heroship. This probably we don't want another coming of age story. Tragedy, maybe a comedy, maybe a tragic comedy. Could it be a romance? Could be some romance in there. So what kind of stories do you like? What kind of story should we do for this young military person who comes in and has to deal with a culture that, well, it's kind of soft.